Welcome to.
Oh, that's me. See, we just kind of fumble in. Astrology of the Unknown, a true crime astrology podcast. I am your host, Joseph Mulholland.
And I am your other host, William Holloway. And today we actually have a special guest, which I am super excited about. Ellie from Saturn Season Astrology is here.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being our first guest on the show. I'm super excited about it.
I feel special.
You should. I mean, you are. I mean, you have your own astrology true crime podcast as well. So
yeah. This stuff is as difficult as it is to look at. It is so interesting to see how all of this can play out astrologically, crimes and things like that. It's very interesting.
Yeah. It is. It absolutely is. Yeah. So I thought you would be the perfect first guest. So I'm really happy you're here. And we're covering, like Joseph said earlier, it's a very obscure case. I don't think a lot of people know much about. Somebody calls JonBenet.
JonBenet.
JonBenet. I think that's what it says.
Oh, is that how you say it?
No. No.
Have I saying it wrong all your shit?
Who knows? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we were saying it wrong, to be honest.
Yeah. So we're covering the JonBenét Ramsey case today, which we wanted to do something for Christmas. So
yeah, what a perfect topic for Christmas, right?
This felt like an appropriate unsolved case to do it in our first Christmas season. So
yeah,
this is like the Die Hard of true crime, where it's like happened on Christmas, isn't necessarily about Christmas, but definitely Christmas sets the backdrop of the story. So do you want me to just jump right in?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
Okay, so JonBenét Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990, to parents JonBenet and Patsy Ramsey. She had an older brother named Burck, as well as older half-siblings from John's previous marriage. JonBenet participated in and won several children's beauty pageants. She was thrust into the national and world spotlight after she was found murdered in her family's Boulder, Colorado home on December 26, 1996. Due to a series of unusual evidence, suspects, and the fact that the case remains unsolved to this day, the investigation has garnered lasting attention. Countless television shows, documentaries and docuseries, books, and blogs have been dedicated to this case. And since this case is so widely known, I'm not going to go down any conspiracy theory rabbit holes. I'm only going to stick to the timeline of events and the facts surrounding the case. So I'm not going to go too in-depth because unless you've been living under a rock for the last 30 years, you have probably already heard of this case and are well aware of many of the facts surrounding it, especially if you are a true crime fanatic, which chances are you are if you're listening to this podcast. So, a lot of people will assume that the story starts on December 26th, 1996, but according to biography.com and CNN, the story actually begins on December 23rd, 1996, as a call was placed to 911 from the Ramsey household 3 days before JonBenet was murdered. However, on January 10th, 1997, it was reported that the call was likely a mistake made by a drunk party guest because the Ramseys had a party at their house on December 23rd. On December 25th, 1996, the Ramsey family goes to a Christmas party at a friend's house. They return home that evening, and there is a theory. I know I said I wasn't going to jump into any theories, but this does come into play later on. There's a theory that JonBenet and her brother Burck likely fought over a late night snack of pineapple. This will be important later on. Many of you already know where I'm going with this. So now we get to the main event. On December 26, 1996, in the early morning, Patsy Ramsey wakes up around 5:30 a.m. and goes downstairs to start the day. And as she descends the spiral staircase, she discovers a 3-page ransom note demanding $118,000, which is the equivalent of her husband John Ramsey's Christmas bonus that year. It's all laid out on the staircase. All 3 pages are kind of laid out separately. The note says that JonBenet has been kidnapped and will remain unharmed as long as the Ramseys do what they say. Patsy goes into JonBenet's room and discovers that she is not in bed. She alerts John and they search the house, but they don't find anything initially. A call is placed to 911 by Patsy at 5:52 a.m. and police arrive at the house shortly after, around 6 a.m. So, pretty quick. Officer Rick French does the initial search, though he does not check every room in the basement. Tragic foreshadowing. Detective Linda Arndt arrived to the Ramsey house around 8 a.m. Later in the afternoon, John and a family friend named Fleet White are instructed by Detective Arndt to do a top-to-bottom search of the house for anything unusual. At just after 1 p.m., John goes into the basement and he finds JonBenet's body in one of the previously unchecked rooms in the basement that they call their wine cellar. She's tied up, her mouth and neck are covered in duct tape, and there are signs of strangulation and sexual assault. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can see that their basement wasn't just like a one-room basement. There's there's like 5 or 6 rooms down there. So
yeah, they had a maze of a house.
Yes, and the basement is a very clear indication of just how complicated the layout of the house was. In that wine cellar, there is a window, and that window looks out into a grate that you have to open to get out of. And there's actually a broken window in that room. And there is a suitcase that is upright that has some glass on it and what looks like a footprint. There's speculation that the suitcase was kind of used as a stepping stool to get in and out of the window. John removes her tape, picks up his daughter, and runs upstairs screaming. What began as a kidnapping investigation has quickly shifted to a homicide. As the day goes on, an extensive investigation begins, but because John brought JonBenet's body upstairs and he left the basement door open, much of the crime scene and evidence are tainted. Initial suspicion falls heavily on the Ramsey family due to initial peculiar behavior. Example, John is overheard 35 minutes after JonBenet's body was found, arranging a flight to Atlanta for that same day or evening because he had an important meeting that he couldn't miss. Detectives told him that he couldn't leave town, and he was later persuaded to stay by the Boulder Police Department. Which is weird, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Ramseys were interviewed and quickly realized that this sparked a nationwide obsession, like that day. So they hire PR and legal teams, and the Boulder County Coroner's team removes JonBenet's body from the house at 10:45 p.m. that day. Now we're going to move forward to December 28th, 1996. The Ramsey family cooperates with Boulder police by willingly giving hair, blood, and handwriting samples. On December 29th, 1996, the Ramsey family goes to their former hometown of Atlanta to prepare for JonBenet's funeral. On December 31st, 1996, JonBenet was laid to rest in Marietta, Georgia, next to her older half-sister, Elizabeth, who died in a car accident in 1992. Elizabeth is one of John Ramsey's children from a previous marriage. January 1st, 1997, John and Patsy Ramsey give a CNN interview. It's a hard watch. Patsy's behavior seems very odd, and it appears that she's on sedatives or something. I don't know. Her behavior is just very peculiar, and it fuels suspicions that they have something to do with their daughter's murder. On January 2nd, 1997, a team of detectives fly from Boulder to Atlanta. They're confused as to why the Ramseys would give a TV interview since they claim to be too emotional to be interviewed by police. Detectives continue to search the home in Georgia, as well as the Ramsey vacation home in Michigan. On January 3rd, 1997, detectives reveal the ransom note was written inside the Ramsey house on one of Patsy's notepads. On January 8th, 1997, news comes out that there may have been what looked like a practice note written on a piece of paper still attached to Patsy's notepad. On February 27th, 1997, John, Andrew, and Melinda, the two other older half-siblings from John Ramsey's previous marriage, are questioned and later cleared as suspects as they were not in town when JonBenet was murdered. Now we're going to fast forward to March 7th, 1997. The results of the handwriting analysis clears John as the writer of the ransom note, but not Patsy, as there are some minor similarities. Also, the fact that it was written on her notepad. They continue to look for unrehearsed writing samples to see if they can come up with more evidence, and they actually go back to their vacation home in Michigan to see if they can get any writing samples from Patsy that might be there. On April 3rd, 1997, there are two DNA tests that are conducted, one by the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and one by Maryland's Cellmark Labs. 6 weeks later, sources report that there are quote-unquote no surprises in the results of the DNA tests, but they don't get into specifics as to what that actually means. On April 19th, 1997, Patsy and John Ramsey become prime suspects in the investigation, according to District Attorney Alex Hunter. April 30th, 1997, Patsy Ramsey is questioned in a 6.5-hour interview, and John is questioned for 2 hours. The statements from these interviews replaced their initial statements that were made right after the murder. In mid-July, I don't have a specific date, but in mid-July of 1997, the Ramseys moved back to Atlanta. On July 14th, 1997, JonBenet's autopsy report is released. The coroner determined that JonBenet was strangled to death, among other injuries. She suffered an 8.5-inch skull fracture and showed signs of sexual assault. In addition to the deep ligature mark on her neck, JonBenet had one on her right wrist as well. Records also indicate that she had bruises and marks on her shoulders, legs, and feet. She also had partially digested pineapple in her stomach, which neither Patsy nor John remember her eating before she went to bed the night of December 25th, 1996. Theories suggest that perhaps she may have snuck downstairs for a snack after the family had gone to sleep. And there's also some speculation that she and Burck argued over, I don't know where that came from, but that they argued over a snack, or it was his snack and she ate some of it and they got in a fight. I don't know. That's some of the conspiracy theory around, for people who think Burck is the one who did it, that he killed her over pineapple. I don't know. On December 19th, 1997, the Ramseys say they believe a stun gun was used in JonBenet's death. This is due to some peculiar markings that could have been tiny burn marks consistent with stun gun use on various parts of her body. On January 15th, 1998, the Ramseys were asked to review evidence before giving more interviews to police, and they reject this request. On January 29th, 1998, 2 months after police requested that the Ramseys submit their clothes that they were wearing the night of the crime, they turn in 2 shirts, a pair of pants, and a sweater. On March 10th, 1998, District Attorney Alex Hunter is interviewed by the Denver Post, and he is quoted as saying, "With the police department's list of items to be accomplished narrowing, the issue of a grand jury is a more serious topic and is being given serious consideration. A grand jury offers the option of subpoenaing witnesses in the murder case." June 3rd, 1998, lead investigator Mark Buckner says they have significant results from the 1,058 pieces of evidence taken from the Ramseys' Boulder, Colorado home, but details of those findings are not shared publicly. And then sometime in June of 1998, Burck Ramsey, who was 9 at the time of the murder, is questioned. He is 11 at the time of the interview. And John and Patsy are also questioned separately. They actually have to return to Boulder for videotaped interviews, while Burke's initial interview is actually conducted back in Atlanta. It's determined later that the crime was too sophisticated for a 9-year-old to commit. In July 1998, John and Patsy Ramsey participate in a documentary that airs in the UK called The Case of JonBenet, The Media versus the Ramsey. This documentary later appeared in the US in September of the same year. August 6th of 1998, Denver detective Steve Thomas resigns, calling the case crippled in an 8-page resignation letter. Governor Roy Romer steps in and appoints additional prosecutors to the case. August 20th, 1998, the 911 call that Patsy made on the morning of JonBenet's disappearance has been digitally enhanced, and Burke's voice is reportedly heard in the background. This is a problem because the Ramseys originally said Burke was asleep during the call and didn't wake up until police arrived. September 15th, 1998, the 12-person grand jury begins their investigation 5 months after the jurors are selected. On September 24th, 1998, homicide detective Lou Smith also quits, saying that too much focus is being put on the Ramsey parents and that the focus should be on figuring out who the killer actually is. The Ramseys use this to convince authorities to shift the focus of the investigation away from them. On October 13th, 1998, the grand jury starts hearing about the case and learning about the forensic evidence such as DNA, hair, and fibers found at the scene. They also tour the Ramsey family's former Boulder, Colorado home. On December 3rd, 1998, DNA evidence is collected from 5 Ramsey family members. It's unclear who those 5 family members are, but they are not listed as suspects. Investigators just want to identify whose DNA was in the household, and who it belonged to, basically, because they found a lot of different DNA evidence just around the house. On January 28th, 1999, investigators asked the online community, and this is something I actually did not know. Investigators asked the online community to try to find information about a Santa Claus teddy bear that was reportedly found in JonBenet's bedroom, as apparently the Ramsey family said they have no recollection of her having this teddy bear prior to the murder. They hope to find the manufacturer and where it was sold to help narrow down the suspect pool. And as far as I know, nothing ever comes of this. It's just kind of like an all hands on deck kind of request by investigators to the growing online community. But I don't think it garnered any results. On March 18th, 1999, Detective Linda Arndt, the first detective on the case, resigns over criticism of the initial investigation. May 19th, 1999, Burck Ramsey is eliminated as a suspect after being secretly questioned by the grand jury. He is declared a witness only. On September 13th, 1999, Detective Arndt is interviewed on Good Morning America, and she famously says that she knows who killed JonBenet, but she doesn't say who. On September 30th, 1999, JonBenet's half-siblings John Andrew and Melinda testify in front of the grand jury. October 13th, 1999, District Attorney Alex Hunter says there isn't sufficient evidence to charge anyone in the case, and the grand jury investigation comes to a close. DNA results have cleared the Ramseys. On March 17th, 2000, the Ramseys publish a book called The Death of Innocence about the murder of JonBenet, and they begin a publicity campaign to promote the book. On May 24th, 2000, the Ramseys hold a press conference stating that they took lie detector tests to confirm their innocence in the death of their daughter. However, the test was not run by the FBI, so the results aren't acceptable to the investigators. And we're going to kind of fast forward a little bit because nothing really happens in the case for a while. And then on June 24th, 2006, Patsy Ramsey dies at the age of 49 from ovarian cancer. and she's buried 5 days later next to her daughter in Marietta, Georgia. So Patsy had cancer in the early 90s, and she went into remission, and she was in remission for years, but it had come back, and so she passed away from it in 2006. On August 16th, 2006, John Mark Carr, this is where it gets weird, John Mark Carr, an American teacher living in Bangkok, confesses to JonBenet's murder. "I loved JonBenet," he said at a press conference after his arrest. "I was with JonBenet when she died. She died accidentally." Carr is flown back to Colorado to face charges that never materialize. Aspects of his confession don't add up, and his DNA is not a match. The case is dismissed by Boulder District Attorney Mary Lacey on August 28, 2006, as they were unable to establish that he committed the crime despite Carr's insistence that he did. On July 9th, 2008, DA Mary Lacey officially clears the Ramseys as suspects. This reversal follows results from a 2007 DNA test that matched genetic evidence from JonBenet's underwear to a newly discovered sample on her long johns. The DNA belongs to an unidentified man, and it's not anyone in the Ramsey family. Now we're going to kind of skip ahead a little bit more because, as I said earlier, there not really much happened for a little while. So we're going to move ahead to January 27th, 2013. A previously sealed indictment from the grand jury investigation that concluded in October 1999 is unsealed, and it's discovered that the grand jury actually voted to indict John and Patsy Ramsey on charges of child abuse resulting in death. Then District Attorney Alex Hunter didn't sign that indictment and chose not to prosecute based on lack of evidence. So if he had decided to indict, that we would have a totally different story happening. On September 12th, 2016, Burck Ramsey famously breaks his silence and sits down for an interview with none other than Dr. Phil. Burck believes the killer was in the pageant scene. On December 28th, 2016, Burck Ramsey sues CBS for defamation after that very same docuseries he was interviewed for, The Case of JonBenét Ramsey, which aired in September 2016, actually blamed him for his sister's murder, and he's seeking $750 million in damages. On January 4th, 2019, Burck, Ramsey, and CBS settled that defamation lawsuit for an undisclosed amount. And the only other thing I'm going to mention is that on November 9th, 2022, the Boulder Police Department announced a partnership with the Colorado Cold Case Review Team. Authorities also commit to additional forensic analysis as new technology becomes available. And on December 23rd, 2023, after a year of consulting work that included building a digital evidence database, the Colorado Cold Case Review Team shares its recommendations with Boulder Police. The department states it's in the process of reviewing and prioritizing the team's recommendations with the district attorney, but declines to explain any details of the case. So that's the entire timeline of events leading up to present day for the JonBenét Ramsey murder case. And I'm actually surprised I got through that as quickly as I did.
Thank you.
Because,
wow, that was really good.
Thank you. Because like I said, I just wanted to stick to like, this is the chronological order of events. And I didn't want to get too in the weeds of like, you know, conspiracy theories and all of that. So.
Sorry, sometimes I'll light this in the middle.
No,
Yeah,
please do. Please, I actually kind of feel like I want to do the same.
I always have something burning, and I realized that mine went out, and I was like, "Oh, I don't like that."
Yeah, you got to get it burning.
Exactly.
I figured we'd look at JonBenét's birth chart, then we'll look at the transits at the moment that Patsy called the cops. Then we'll look at that event chart by itself. And then we'll look at the second event chart, which is when the body was discovered. Let's start with the birth chart. JonBenet was a Gemini rising. That's ruled by Mercury. Mercury's in Virgo in the 4th house. She's a Leo sun, which is in the 3rd house, and Aquarius moon. in the ninth house, which is ruled by that Saturn in Capricorn in the eighth. Something important about this chart, her birth chart, is that she was born on a lunar eclipse.
Yes.
Which is just wild, right? So, like, do we want to talk about that for a second?
Well, it definitely not universally, but it can produce interesting lives for people that are born on them, right? Like,
Yeah.
And even though unfortunately, she wasn't alive for very long, she did have an interesting life. Her life was unique.
Totally.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And I also look at, not only the being born on an eclipse, but also from like an evolutionary standpoint, with that sun conjunct the south node and that moon conjunct the north node, it's coming into this lifetime. There is some sort of, with the Leo south node and with the sun in Leo, there is a familiarity with perhaps having the spotlight in a way.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And when I say familiar, right, or comfortable, it doesn't necessarily mean that she liked it. She may or may not have. I don't know, but it was definitely it seems very familiar to her.
Yeah. Like it was natural for her, maybe? Is it?
Yeah, like depending on people watching, I don't know how people watching feel about past lives. If you wanted to go that way, it could be, from a previous lifetime lens, there was some sort of familiarity with that for whatever reason, or if somebody watching this doesn't like that, she just comes in being familiar with it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It definitely stands out with that moon in Aquarius though, and conjunct the north node.
Yeah.
It makes me think that if she had been alive longer, she probably would have had and all this stuff in the eighth house. I was going for my thing, like I was going to circle around it because
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I was like going for the cursor myself. But like all the stuff in the eighth house and that Aquarius North Node and the moon in Aquarius, it feels like she would have gone through several transformations and probably would have ended up somewhere very different than she started.
Yes, that's a very good point. Yeah. Her life was destined for hardship, though. I mean, because that eclipse is squaring Mars and squaring Pluto, which are directly opposing each other. So that's like,
those are glaring. Like,
yeah,
they are. They're very like, yes, if she had, I mean, and who knows what her life was like, behind, who the hell, I'll leave my opinions of things out of, but it wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't always easy.
Yeah.
I think there probably would have been if she had remained alive, there would have been some difficult things that she would have gone through if she didn't. I'm trying to be very delicate with how I say it.
I know.
Yeah.
Probably was going through difficult things behind the scenes.
Yes. Yeah. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. All right. So let's look at the event. Not that. That's the full moon. The event. Okay. So December 26, 1996 at 5:52 a.m. in Boulder, Colorado is the event chart. We're looking at it as transits to the birth chart first. So right off the bat, there was a full moon. There was a full moon in Cancer in the third house, opposite natal Saturn and Capricorn conjunct transiting Neptune and Jupiter in the eighth house. So
the full moon and her born on an eclipse. The time.
heavy.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Yeah. Yes.
Let's just look at the chart by itself because
I was going to say, I haven't looked at it too much like this. I was looking at the,
right.
I'm going to go, what?
I know. Because I looked at it briefly just because I really wanted to just pick out what was being hit in her chart. But I do think the chart by itself is very revealing. So let's look at, here we go. All right. So this is the event chart. by itself. So we'll start off with, it's a Sagittarius ascendant. So that Sagittarius ascendant represents JonBenet. That Sag ascendant is ruled by Jupiter in Capricorn in the second house, conjunct Mercury retrograde and Neptune. Then we have, well, the sun's in the first house too. So that's the first thing. So we talked about what's in the first house, talked about what's in the second house.
That ascendant is also conjunct the great attractor.
Oh, tell us more about that.
Well, I wonder if that plays a role in, I mean, don't get me wrong, this case would have caught attention regardless, right? It would have. But I do wonder if that plays a role as to why it captivated people so much.
Yeah.
It's because of the great attractor. It's not a black hole, but it kind of functions like a black hole.
Oh.
And it's like it has no event horizon though, so they aren't classified. No, scientists don't know what the hell it is. Like nobody really knows what it is, but it's attracting things to it. And an ascendant conjunct the great attractor can kind of do the same thing in an event chart.
Yeah.
There can be that it can kind of have a similar sort of thing. Same thing with the natal chart, right? But
right. Interesting. Okay. It's also conjunct Venus, which is actually in the 12th. So that's interesting right there. Venus in the 12th.
It is. And Venus, another a theory with this when you're dealing with minor children is to look not only, well, I mean, obviously look at the ascendant, right? But also you can look at the fifth house and the ruler of the fifth house. Because that, and in this one we've got Taurus and Venus is the ruler. So
yep.
Having that right there with it, kind of, I don't know. Yeah. It's definitely interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah. Okay. I want to look at that second house because there's a lot going on in that second house. We've got Mercury retrograde, pretty much conjunct that Jupiter, which represents JonBenet. And then you have Neptune, and they're all in Capricorn. Neptune had just stationed direct about a month before, but it was only it only had moved about a degree. So Neptune was pretty potent at this moment.
I didn't realize that part of it. That is interesting.
Yeah, pretty wild.
How many people were in the house? Were there just the four of them?
I don't actually know. Is that true?
Yes, it was just the four of them. It was John, Patsy, Burck, and JonBenet.
Okay, may I present something? Those
please do.
Second house. Sometimes you'll see this. Like I know in the Moscow, Idaho murders, there were things clustered together. I can't remember exactly what they were. You saw the same thing with the yogurt shop murders here in Austin. Sometimes you'll see these like literal, like 4 planets, 4 people or whatever. And I do wonder if this could be representative of the 4 people in the house.
Interesting.
Yeah, totally.
Especially with her being one of her representations being the ascendant in Jupiter.
And because the other part of it is that the descendant, which represents the killer, that we don't know who it is, but it is ruled, it is in Gemini, which Gemini can mean that there's more than one person, but it's ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is right there next to Jupiter. So right there, like you can tell me what you think about it, but my first thought is, well, whoever did this, she had a relationship with them or knew them pretty well.
Yes, I agree with that very much. They are far too close.
Far too close.
A little too close for comfort for me.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I'd also like to mention, since you brought Mercury up, Gemini being the descendant in Gemini, sometimes that can indicate there can be a youthfulness.
Right.
Gemini energy is youthful.
Killer might be young.
Or youthful spirited.
Right.
I'm gonna be careful with how I say things.
I know.
Yeah.
But
and another thing is Mercury, being about communication and written messages, the ransom note is a part of the story, and the ransom note is right there.
how do you feel about that ransom note with that Neptune right there too?
Right. And opposing the moon in
Uh-huh.
Cancer,
Uh-huh.
which I haven't even talked about yet. It feels like there's deception involved in this note.
I think it's pretty weird that they're asked that whoever wrote this ransom note was asking for the exact amount that John Ramsey's Christmas bonus.
That is
That
very
seemed
weird.
weird to me.
Yeah, and it's not like a random number that like it's not like he got like 120,000 where they could have just guessed that. No, it was 118, which is kind of and they knew it's like come on now.
Yeah.
Right. And even like some of the cops that were defending the Ramseys were like, well, they could have easily gone to the office because there was paper. No one's doing that. I'm sorry. I mean, I've never written a ransom note, but I'm not going through someone's office to say, oh, what number should I put? Let me look at their bank statements, see how much they have.
Yeah, that's
Like, what? That's crazy. No one's doing that.
The only thing I can think of, not going to the office like that is crazy. If he did they ever say anything like he said how much he made and claiming that somebody like overheard it or
He could have been bragging about it, right? So if it wasn't someone in the family, maybe they were at the. I mean, that's another theory, right? That it would be someone that would have been in the house at some point, right? So if we're going to say it wasn't the family, that someone knew the house, someone knew the family. Yeah.
definitely I like you mentioned before though with that Mercury and Jupiter like they knew whoever they knew her and
They
she
knew her. Yeah.
regardless who that is. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, another thing about that Mercury is that it had just stationed to retrograde like a few days before. So it was a very powerful Mercury.
Yeah.
So that moon in the eighth. Okay, so the moon in the eighth can indicate the victim died under distress, which I think we pretty much, it's pretty obvious.
yeah.
And smothering could be involved. It also can symbolize that the crime happened at home, but also could involve maternal perpetrators. And
Yeah.
it's opposing that Mercury and opposing all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of biting the inside of my mouth,
Yeah.
but not yeah, but yes, I know where you're going. Yeah, mhm.
Here's another thing I find interesting. Let me know what you think about this. So Saturn is conjunct the South Node in Aries in the third house. So Saturn, right off the bat, Saturn doesn't like to be in Aries. That is not a place that Saturn likes to be, so it's not in good condition. Let's just think about the brother for a second. The third house is about siblings, right?
Yes.
Saturn can be about. I always think of Saturn as like a father figure in a person's life, not necessarily a brother. But some of the texts I was looking through, like some of the forensic texts I was looking through, have said that Saturn can represent an older brother. Also, is that something you've ever really seen with Saturn? I never really thought about Saturn in that way before.
No, I mean, I can't say that you couldn't, but no, that wouldn't be where my mind would go.
Right.
I not necessarily. I just think of like elder in general.
Okay.
When I think of I mean, you could think of an elder as just somebody a few years older than you. I mean, you could,
You could.
or perhaps an elder influence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an elder influence, which is squaring that Pluto. So in the 12th.
Wait, which one's squaring?
Wait, is it?
It's squaring the sun.
Oh, sorry, it's trining Pluto. My bad.
So, no, I just want I figured you
thank
might
you.
want to be
Accurate. Yeah, you're right. It's squaring the sun, which I don't know. I think the sun can signify the father.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and I think of Pluto can often tell us about the psychology of the killer. And in the 12th house, trining that Saturn makes me think of boundaries, poor boundaries or no boundaries, dysfunctional boundaries.
Yeah. And yes. You know, and I look at that. It's not a grand cross because the moon is too far away.
Mm,
But I do look at, you know, we've got the sun in Capricorn, the moon in Cancer. We've got the nodes going on in Libra and Aries. I don't know. There's something about that kind of, I don't even know how I can verbalize what I'm thinking. Almost like they were all, I kind of imagine all four of them having some kind of issue.
yeah.
I don't quite know how to verbalize what I mean though.
Yeah. I mean, that just keeps coming up
Mhm.
over and over throughout this chart is like fucked up family dynamics.
Yes. 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 Yeah. Yeah. Like I almost picture, and this is going to sound like so dramatic, but I almost picture like something like where they all have guns drawn at each other. And that's very, very dramatic. That is not, I know that that's far too dramatic. But that's how when I look at this, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Law enforcement here is interesting.
Yes. Which one do you look at for law enforcement? What planets you typically represents law enforcement?
Well, I'll generally look at the 10th house and the ruler.
Okay. Yeah.
They'll also, you know, Saturn. You can certainly look at Saturn for like authority, right, or whatever. Government.
Yeah. That's usually what I do, and
Yes.
Saturn, yeah. But the
And I
time
think,
makes sense.
and that's totally. I mean, yeah, that's a totally fair way to go. It makes sense. Here, though, it's in Libra, and we've got that Venus in the 12th.
Yeah.
And I know it's close to the ascendant, but it does make me think somebody was hiding some shit. Somebody was doing something.
Yeah.
Somebody was not. And that Pluto trine to Saturn was like letting it happen. I don't know. I'm like,
Yeah. The closest thing I can think of like how like wild this thing is, it kind of makes me think of like Epstein level, to where like is everybody involved somehow, like that kind of. Yeah.
Yes. I laugh. I only laugh because yes, yes, I really wonder about this kind of shit myself.
Well, and you know, it doesn't help that the whole crime scene was basically tainted right from the get-go. So like
Yeah.
that also does not make things easy.
People are fucking wiping down cabinets and shit, eating, and friends are over. It's like, what?
Yeah.
You're looking for your daughter. Why are your fucking friends here? I don't know. That
Right.
I sound
Everybody was so weird. Everyone's behavior in this case was bizarre and weird. Everyone.
yes. Yeah, I mean, and I feel like I sound really judgmental because I've never been in that position. I don't know what it's like to look for and I realize everybody responds to traumatic things differently, but there are a lot of very bizarre things with this that definitely make you kind of go, why?
It needs to make you go, Do we want to talk about some of these asteroids that I found?
Yes.
All right.
I love Asteroid Corner.
Asteroid Corner. Welcome to Asteroid Corner. All right. So the first asteroid I found. So what I usually do, Ellie, is because you said you have a list of like your fixed stars. Like I have a similar book. Which book is that, by the way, that you have?
Oh, this is Criminal Astrology Volume 1.
Oh, I'll have to get it.
Macintosh.
I usually write down like 40 asteroids. I try to get as many as I can find that may or may not be related to what we're looking for. Obviously, I'm not looking for like a drowning case. Obviously, I'm looking at like people who start fires, but like other, there are all these different things. So this is what I found.
Okay.
there's an asteroid called Mira, at 29 Cancer. So it's opposite Neptune in Capricorn and in that eighth house. Mira shows up in cases of forbidden love and incest.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Then we have another asteroid called Lucifer
Okay. Yeah.
at 25 Libra in the 10th house, square the moon and Cancer. And Lucifer is associated with, you guessed it, Satan. And shows up where morally corrupted activities take place and also incest.
So we're seeing the beginnings of a theme.
Beginnings of a theme, yeah. Oh, here's another theme that starts popping up here. And we've seen this one. I've seen this asteroid show up in a few charts at this point. It's called Mental. It's basically mental with an extra L.
Okay.
And it's at 26 Pisces. So it's in the third house and it's opposite Virgo, Mars and Virgo. That Mars is probably related to the violence of the whole case because it's at the top of the chart. So mental shows up where mental illness and erratic behavior may have played a part in the crime.
Okay.
Two more. Orestes, Orestes is the name of this asteroid. And it's at 11 Pisces in the third, square Venus.
Yeah.
And it's loosely square the ascendant. And this shows up where familial violence is involved, also where mental illness can be a factor, or like mental states that lead to familial violence.
Wow.
No, I was going to say that Mars is also the ruler of the fourth, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So home.
Yes. Yeah.
Violence in the home.
These are some weird, like I have chills. Like this is, I feel like every time you talk about the asteroids, like, I feel like that is where we find our answers, kind of, or like,
Well, they're so specific.
Yeah, they are so specific. I feel like every story that we've talked about so far, every time you talk about the asteroids, it really does kind of support all of these weird themes around what we think may have happened, or at least like, you know, some of the more popular theories around what happened, and you know, the
right, and
the
there
violence,
are more,
the mental instability, the, you know, more than one of them talks about incest and, you know, taboo love, and it is just, it's a lot. it's a lot.
And there are a lot of asteroids that I don't even mention that are like maybe in a loose square or a loose, like I'm really anal about my orbs.
The
You know what I mean?
Oh no, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I was saying just like, yes, I'm like, I make sure that they're like tight orbs when I do the asteroids because there's so many, right?
Keep those orbs tight.
They're like they're like fine tuning an instrument.
Yes.
Asteroids are. No, so the taboo thing also, like, you know, the moon just like in the eighth house of this chart, tying into like the taboo, perhaps.
Yeah, totally.
Off limits things.
The last asteroid that I have is called Boreas. It's at 1 degree Libra. So it's like right on the MC and opposite Saturn, conjunct the North Node. And this asteroid shows up when sexual assault is involved and uncontrollable sexual desires are involved. Or inappropriate, I should say. Inappropriate sexual desires are involved. So those, I mean, I don't know, those were the asteroids that I thought should we look now at when the body was found? I kind of feel like this chart is almost like a supporting document to this main chart. And, you know, I hadn't even thought about it. And me and Ellie were talking earlier. And you brought it up, and as soon as I looked at it, I was like, oh my God. That's the other chart is just like, I don't know what else to say, folks. Here we go.
There's something interesting, I think, okay, can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
Okay, in this chart, you know, that all that shit that was in the second house, right?
Yeah.
We now have them broken up.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like we have Mercury now off, Mercury retrograde, and Capricorn off. I don't want to say it is by itself in that. Well, no, it's not by itself in that house. I guess the sun is there too, but away from those other three planets, right? It's not in the same house as those three planets, which does I don't know. There's something about that kind of strikes me as interesting.
Like, was Burck removed? Was Burck not in the house when the body was brought up? He probably would have been taken to some neighbor's house or a relative's house, right? He wouldn't have been, the four of them wouldn't have been in the house anymore. There would have, I would think, right? At that point, he wouldn't still be there.
I believe he was. I believe that after the cops showed up, Burke was taken to a friend's house. I don't think he was there when her body was discovered.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I wonder if that could be because it is interesting that it's now
in the ninth house of like somewhere else, not home anymore, right? Now you're gone somewhere you've never been before.
I'd also like to throw something out that you can cut out if you'd like to.
Okay.
That was the perpetrator in the first chart.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But I don't know if you want to keep that.
No, let's keep it. I mean, that's what I was inferring when
okay.
Thought, yeah.
I never know how. Sorry, I'm not sure.
No, it's okay. We can. Yeah. I mean, I just want to be more careful about language so that if I try to promote the video, it doesn't get turned down because of like certain words we use. But as long as we're careful, I think it's okay. So I looked at this chart thinking of Jupiter and Mercury still as representing the killer and JonBenet. So like kind of keeping that in mind, but then also taking on a new level of this, which is where is the ascendant and where's the descendant? What is that telling us? Well, the ascendant and descendant are both ruled by Venus. So they're both ruled by the same planet. So in essence, you could think that the victim and the killer are the same, or it's like I don't know. I know that sounds weird, but it just
Yeah, I get where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That moon in the fourth definitely stands out.
And now it's directly opposing Neptune.
Mm-hmm. Which kind of makes me think of fuckery afoot.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And now that Saturn in the 12th.
Which is now the ruler of the 10th house.
Right.
In this chart.
Everyone's guilty.
Yeah, it's like you got some splaining to do.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
Man.
I was going to say the fixed stars.
Oh, yeah. Let's look at those.
So there is one at 2349, which is right on that Jupiter at 2358. Vanity and love of display together with a long life and sometimes fame. That one's Peacock.
Oh, yeah. And that's right on the Jupiter, huh?
That's right on Jupiter. Which in the other chart, that being representative of her, that is, that does make sense. I mean, it does make sense here.
And she will be famous for life, whether.
Yes. Yeah. Mercury at 1821. I'm not even trying to pronounce that. I'm not good at pronouncing things. So, artistic talent, sexual adventures, disgrace, gaudiness, independent thought, trouble with authority, death by violence. It is fortunate for Venus and Mercury. So in the case of, that being the perpetrator, right, in the other chart.
Lucky Mercury.
Yes, and also that Mercury retrograde, you see that retrograde, oftentimes it takes a long time for anything to ever.
Right. Right. Yeah, we talked about that before. Like that could symbolize something taking a while, if ever, to be
Exactly.
solved.
Exactly. The only other one, because in this one we've got a Venus ascendant, and in the other chart, Venus was the ruler of the fifth house. So it might be worthwhile looking at Venus too.
Yeah.
Let's see, 11. Oh, Rostaban,
Mm.
1158, Sagittarius. Impulsive, honorable, good for astrology. Government, writing, sports, finance, the arts, accidents, wounds, blindness, criminality. And it's neutral for Venus. It's unfortunate for Saturn, Mars, and Jupiter.
Okay. I mean, criminality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, should we give our final thoughts on what we think? Is there
Sure.
anything else we want to look at before we give our official statements?
How blunt should we be here? This next part.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I don't really have anything like spicy to to add to the soup. But I actually think that Burck is correct. I actually think that his theory that it was somebody in the pageant scene who was like, a creep. I think I think it was someone in the community, someone in the pageant scene. I know they determined based on the DNA evidence that it was that it was that it was a man. But I do think that the family didn't do themselves any favors with their behavior. And, I mentioned at the top of the timeline that John Ramsey was on the phone trying to get a flight to Atlanta like a half an hour after his daughter's body was found because he had a business meeting that he had to get to. Like,
Yeah.
those kinds of things, that kind of behavior is put under a microscope when you are in that kind of a situation where you've just discovered your daughter's lifeless body in your basement and now you know what I mean? And then with Patsy getting on, being interviewed and being clearly out of it, like, why did no one tell her not to do that? You know what I mean?
Well, I'm sure they told both of them what to and what not to do, and it seemed like they really kind of did their own thing. They didn't take advice, at least in the beginning, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I just think based on the evidence, even though it was, clearly tampered with the fact that it wasn't a closed crime scene. There were people in and out of the wine cellar, up and down the stairs. JonBenet's body was clearly compromised. I don't think that anybody, the family or the investigators, did it themselves any favors. I don't think it was anybody in the family personally.
Okay.
But as to who it was, I have no idea. I really don't. But
yeah,
that's just my 2 cents. Do I think other things were going on in that house based on the dynamics and the astrology? Yeah, I do think that they probably wasn't the healthiest family dynamic. But what family dynamic is? I'm sure there's something, if you looked at all of our like charts, if all of our like familial charts, there's probably some like weird stuff in there, but I don't know.
Not as weird as this, but yes.
No, for real. That's why I bring it up, because it is like exceptionally weird, but I don't know. It's like, whose DNA was that? Whose DNA was like, if it didn't belong to anybody in the family, like whose was it? Anyway, all right.
It could have been a clean, I don't know, like I feel like sometimes with the DNA, I don't want to get on a whole thing about it, but I feel sometimes with the DNA, we either put too much weight into it or we don't put enough. Because the way how DNA is decided, I don't know. there's so many factors that it could easily have been. Something could have transferred from like a cleaning person and someone got out of the way. You know what I mean?
They
Like,
did have a cleaning person that was initially, I didn't include any of this stuff because I didn't it was all stuff that was like a blip. There was a cleaning person that was originally a suspect, and so remember when that 911 call was placed on the 23rd of December. Apparently they had a party that night and there was a guy who came dressed as Santa Claus, and apparently he was like kind of obsessed with the shaman. He was like kind of infatuated with her at the party, and just based on witness accounts. And so he was a suspect for a little while. He was dressed up as Santa Claus, and that the family friend was also a suspect. Fleet White, he was a family friend of the Ramseys. He was also a suspect for a little while, but he was cleared out. He was cleared as well. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't have any answers. I really don't think anybody in the family did it, but that's just my opinion. And I don't think, I don't know. I don't know.
okay.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ellie?
Uh,
Go there. Do it. Do it.
okay. Well, to be honest, I don't really know. I don't really, whoever it was close to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Um, ah, the parent in me, the one that's that wants to think that, parents would not at all be involved in something like this with their child.
Right.
Mhm.
I don't know though in this.
Yeah.
There are parts of me that wonder if, without going into too much of, because I don't want us getting in trouble or getting sued or anything, if somebody else could have been involved for the family
Mm.
or helped in some way. I don't know. I looking at the
Okay.
charts, I do have a hard time feeling like they weren't in
I
some
know.
way involved.
Mm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know who exactly, but
Right.
I'd like to think they weren't though. I would much rather go with what you were you were saying. I really would.
Yeah.
Me
I mean,
too.
maybe we'll get a deathbed confession from John Ramsey someday. I don't know.
Maybe. I guess like because I think about having followed this as my whole, since high school, right? When it happened, we were in high school, and I never believed the family were guilty for like 20 years. I always felt that, like when the John Michael Carr situation happened, I was sure it was him or somebody like that at the time. But I don't know, man. After looking at this astrology, like you said, like I don't know how the family wasn't involved somehow. And I don't want to say anyone in particular. I don't know who, if it was one or a little bit of all of them, and they were trying to cover something up, but I really did look for like asteroids that were related to accidents, and I didn't see anything. I'm not saying it wasn't, but I just kept seeing things related to mental illness and inappropriate sexual stuff in the family unit, leading to this.
Mm.
And so I don't know. I can't even begin to imagine how this all went down, nor do I want to. But yes, I believe the family was involved somehow. And that's what I think.
Do you think that the inappropriate behavior could be explained by just by her participation in the pageants? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that's a big part of it, right? Like I think we all came in judging because of the that culture, is,
Yeah, it's something else.
It's
something else. I
weird.
mean, we have
It's like you're
friends that do
sexualizing
that.
children, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, but we also know people that did that as children, so they were part of that world.
true.
Yeah, I mean, parents often are very naive, the ones that get their children into that. Like they don't really think about this, about like the type of people that will come to those events.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but then but then you have to think to yourself, who are those events supposed to draw in the first place?
Yeah.
Who the hell is supposed to be at those events? Like,
It should
Exactly.
just be family, I guess. And the way they made it sound was like it's just a bunch of parents and grandparents, I'm like, is it though? Because like obviously there's going to be people there. Like if it's open to the public,
yeah, yeah. If it was closed off and it was just for the families, that'd be very different. But they opened them to the public, so it's like, who the fuck is this even for?
right?
Yeah. Either way, I think it's I think it's weird. I mean, we do know people that were in the pageant circuit, but I think that at least one of the people that I'm thinking of that we both know would probably also agree that it was a little weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. So maybe that might be what the astrology is pointing to when it talks about like inappropriate or like it could just be that. I don't know. I don't know why I'm playing devil's advocate here, but
All right.
I'm usually all about a juicy conspiracy theory.
That
But
it could play into something having to do with that,
Yeah.
a dynamic at least about
yeah,
to do with it.
yeah. Well, we didn't solve this one today.
Yet again.
But we got some really interesting intel from the stars.
That we always do. So,
Yeah.
well, this
Yeah.
was fun, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Ellie, for joining us.
Yeah.
For having me. It was
really
fun.
Yeah, you'll have to come back for more.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ellie, before we go, and you were on my other podcast, I'll share all the things, but like, share real quick, like where people can find you, so if they want a reading from you.
If you would like a reading from me or whatever, you can find me at saturnseason.com. That's my website. You can also find me at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Oh, on YouTube, that's right.
And on YouTube, yeah, you've got
where can you find me? Saturn Season Astrology on YouTube at Saturn Season Astrology. You can also find me creeping around on the subreddit Let's Fuck with Astrology, one of the moderators of it, Little Miss Whoops. You'll find me there doing my
That's a good name.
I love that.
but yeah. That's great.
Awesome. Cool. Well, this was a fun Christmas event for all.
Yeah. Yes. And thank you again for having me. I really did enjoy myself. Thank you.
Yay,
Oh, great. So did we.
Oh, wow. So did I.
Bye, everybody. I'm not going to say my weird tagline anymore because
Why
it's.
not? You don't want to say it anymore?
What is it?
It doesn't make any sense, but
It doesn't make any sense. I
that's
just
why I
said it.
love it, though.
I said it once and I was like, this is dumb. And William laughed and I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to say it. It was keep your powder dry and keep your powder dry and your mystery solved.
I like that though. It doesn't make any sense, but I like
doesn't
it.
make any no
But that's what's
sense.
funny about it. You're not going to say it anymore.
This
All right.
might be my last time saying it. So
You are going to say it.
I just did.
Oh, but you got to say it like you got to say it.
All right. Until next time, keep your powder dry and your mysteries solved.